Imagine this. You walk into your bank tomorrow, same building, same teller, same friendly smile. But when you ask to withdraw your savings, they tell you your dollars are now worth 30% less than yesterday. No crash, no inflation, just overnight the value of your money evaporates. Impossible? Not anymore. Right now, in 2026, 10 countries making up 45% of the world's population are launching a new global payment system that completely bypasses the US dollar. China has already shifted over half of its international payments, including $244 billion in trade with Russia, away from the dollar. And what is America's response? Print another $1 trillion and act like it's all business as usual. This isn't a theory or some far-off possibility. This is happening, and if you don't understand the signs, you're going to watch your purchasing power disappear in real time. But here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you. This is a pattern. It's happened before, and once you recognize it, you'll see exactly where America stands today. Want to know what comes next? Stick around. This isn't the first time a global power has watched its currency lose dominance. But this time, it's different. It's not just one or two countries looking for alternatives. In fact, in 2024, over half of China's international payments were already switched to the yuan. And this isn't a small experiment, it's a clear signal. Brazil and China signed massive trade deals to completely bypass the dollar. These moves aren't accidental. They're calculated and they're happening at lightning speed. But why now? Why are these countries suddenly pushing the dollar out of the way? It's simple. They've seen the cracks in America's financial system and they're acting before it's too late. The U.S., with its nearly $37 trillion debt, is in deep trouble. We're spending more money to service this debt than we do on national defense, more than we do on schools, infrastructure, and healthcare combined. And as this debt keeps growing, so does the cost of maintaining it. Here's the part most people overlook. This isn't just about debt. It's about trust. Countries like Russia and China are quietly laying the groundwork for a new financial system that doesn't rely on the dollar. But here's the kicker. Once trust in the dollar starts to wane, it's a snowball effect. The more countries drop the dollar, the weaker it gets, and the faster it accelerates toward a global collapse. And America, they're doubling down, printing more money to try and keep the system going, pretending like nothing's changed. But let's be clear, it's already too late to ignore the signs. So what happens when this shift takes full force? Let's make this crystal clear. The dollar's dominance is on its way out. And if you're still thinking this is just a theoretical discussion, look at the facts. In November 2024, the dollar's share of global payments dropped to 47.04%. That's down from 51.74% just 2 years ago. And here's what nobody's talking about. While the dollar is losing ground, China's yuan and the UN are surging. But it's not just a slow bleed, it's accelerating. The BRICS countries, representing 45% of the world's population, are building an alternative infrastructure, one that doesn't rely on the US dollar. At the BRICS summit in October 2024, leaders from 13 countries unveiled plans to create a new payment system called the BRICS Bridge. By 2026, this system could expand to more than 30 nations. Think about that. A currency that once settled 96% of trade in the Americas is now being treated as optional by half the world. This isn't some theoretical future. It's happening right now. And what's America doing in response? Are they securing the dollar's future? No, they're printing more money, digging the hole deeper. Meanwhile, China and Russia are making sure they're insulated from the dollar's collapse, and they're not doing this for fun. They're doing it because they've seen this story before, and it doesn't end well. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds bad, but is it really that bad? Here's where things get serious. When a currency loses its status as the global reserve, the impact is felt everywhere. Just look at history. In 1923, the German mark collapsed. The government printed money to pay off war debts, and suddenly, a coffee that cost 5,000 marks 1 minute was 7,000 marks just 15 minutes later. It wasn't an accident. It was economic warfare disguised as incompetence. What's shocking is how fast things unravel once the dollar starts to lose lose trust. It's not a slow burn. It's a wildfire that spreads uncontrollably. We've seen it with the British pound in the mid-1900s and again with the Soviet ruble. When a country faces massive debt and chooses inflation over austerity, the currency goes into free fall. Prices skyrocket, savings disappear, and people lose everything they worked for. And the worst part, the collapse of a reserve currency doesn't just mean economic chaos. It means the collapse of geopolitical power. When a currency dies, the nation that issued it loses influence, military reach, cultural sway. The very fabric of that country unravels. America's military can't save it from this fate. Ask the British Empire or ask the Soviet Union. Both had powerful armies, but that didn't stop their currencies from crumbling. So if the dollar continues its decline, it won't just be your savings at risk. It will be America's position in the world. And the question is, how long can the world keep relying on a currency that's in free fall? Here's where it gets even more disturbing. You've seen the warning signs, but the next piece of evidence should change the way you view this entire situation. The dollar isn't just losing global trust, it's losing ground to real alternatives. Take Russia and China's actions in 2024. They're not just talking about moving away from the dollar, they're doing it. Russia's trade with China alone hit a record $244 billion in 2024. And guess what? All of it was settled in rubles and yuan. No dollars involved. Now let's focus on the contradiction here. America's entire strategy has been to maintain dollar dominance through military power and economic leverage. But look at what happened when the U.S. froze $300 billion in Russian reserves in 2022. The result? A sharp acceleration in de-dollarization. Countries looked at that and thought, could that happen to us? And once the answer was clear that yes, it could happen to anyone, nations started to scramble. Here's where it really hits home. This isn't just about money, it's about trust. America weaponized its currency to enforce geopolitical agendas, but that action revealed a fatal flaw. Countries are now actively building systems that make them independent of the dollar, and they're doing it quietly, but with purpose. China, Russia, and even India have all started working together to ensure that when the dollar finally falters, they'll be prepared. And make no mistake, this is happening far faster than America is willing to admit. Now, we're seeing the ripple effect. Countries aren't just diversifying, they're rapidly building escape routes from the dollar. 2024 marked a significant turning point. As the BRICS countries move forward with their payment system, the cracks in the dollar's armor are starting to widen. In October 2024, the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia, revealed plans for a payment system that will connect 13 countries with the potential to expand to over 30 by 2026. This isn't speculation. It's happening right now, and it's bigger than anyone's willing to acknowledge. While America dithers, China's CIPS system already connects 1,538 financial institutions across 127 countries. It's growing at 23% annually. Meanwhile, SWIFT, once the undisputed leader, processes $5 trillion per day, while CIPS processes a comparatively modest $80 billion. But that's all China needs. They don't need to outgrow SWIFT. They just need to survive without it. And that's exactly what they're doing. The question now is, what happens if this continues? If CIPS, BRICS, and other systems keep growing, what happens to the dollar's dominance? Here's the truth. As countries begin to settle more trade in local currencies, the dollar's monopoly over global transactions weakens. This isn't just a slow fade. This is a tectonic shift. And when it hits, it will send shockwaves through the global financial system. The system that was once invincible, it's already starting to fracture, and if this trend continues, the dollar will no longer be the global currency of choice. At this point, you're probably starting to feel the weight of what's coming, but here's where it gets personal. This shift won't just affect governments or corporations, it's going to hit you. It will hit your savings, your purchasing power, your lifestyle. We're talking about a real-life impact, not some abstract financial concept. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the money in your bank account doesn't buy you as much as it did yesterday. Your paycheck, not as much purchasing power, your retirement savings taking a serious hit. This is the future many people are walking into, and most have no idea it's coming. If this feels familiar to you, if you've seen this kind of shift happen before, drop a comment below. Let me know if you felt the pressure already, because this isn't just theory anymore. The very foundation of your wealth is being eroded in real time. The people who will feel this most acutely are the ones who depend on stable currency, the middle class. The wealthy, they always find a way to hedge their risk. They'll move their assets, diversify into hard assets, or move money into more stable currencies. But what about you? What happens when the dollar starts to lose its power? And make no mistake, this isn't some distant threat. The erosion of the dollar's dominance is happening now, but it will take time to fully realize the consequences. And when it does, the financial system will look radically different. Here's the unsettling truth. This isn't just about a few bad economic decisions. It's about the system itself, how it operates, how it's rigged, and how this collapse is baked in. The problem goes beyond government debt and currency manipulation. The real issue lies in the mechanisms that allow this to happen: the leverage, the spectacle, the fear. Look at how the system works. America's role as the issuer of the world's reserve currency allows it to print money at will, running up massive debts with little immediate consequence. The world still trusts the dollar, and that trust has allowed America to avoid the pain of austerity or the consequences of a crumbling financial system. But here's the kicker. When that trust erodes, the system falls apart fast. Countries like China, Russia, and India are creating alternatives because they know that when the dollar goes, so does America's ability to dictate the global financial system. But here's the real bombshell. These countries aren't just moving away from the dollar, they're doing it with intention. They're building infrastructure that ensures their survival when the dollar finally collapses. This isn't just some geopolitical play for the sake of power. This is about survival in a world where economic power no longer depends on America's whims. And while America keeps printing money, hoping to buy more time, the rest of the world is setting up the pieces to move on. And when they do, America will find itself without any leverage left. The system that made it the world's superpower, it's unraveling faster than anyone wants to admit. The next few years are critical. The trajectory we're on right now could lead us in two very different directions. On one hand, if the U.S. continues down this path of escalating debt and unchecked spending, we could see the dollar's decline accelerate, leading to a massive financial shift by 2030. Interest payments on the national debt could soar to nearly 40% of all federal revenue, and the U.S. will have to make some tough decisions, possibly drastic ones. On the other hand, there's a chance for a hard reset. If America starts addressing its fiscal issues, cutting spending, reforming the debt structure, it could stabilize the situation. But that's a big if. The question is, can the U.S. make those changes in time? Because if current trends continue, the tipping point could come sooner than we think. And this isn't just an economic problem, it's a geopolitical one. The rise of BRICS, the expansion of alternative payment systems like CIPS, and the growing shift away from the dollar means that America is no longer the only game in town. If the dollar loses its status as the global reserve currency, we could see a shift in global power dynamics that leaves the U.S. on the outside, looking in. This is where things get murky. The next few years will be a race between economic reform and systemic collapse. And in a race like that, there's no guarantee which way it'll go. Now, let me leave you with one deep, unsettling truth. Reserve currency status is a privilege. It's built on fiscal discipline, political stability, and trust. And all three are eroding in America. Meanwhile, China, Russia, and India are carefully constructing alternatives, waiting for the inevitable transition. And when the tipping point comes, the whole world will feel it. America's role as the world's economic engine has been built on the belief that its power, military, and trust in the dollar would protect it forever. But history doesn't work that way. The same story has played out time and again, from the collapse of the German mark to the fall of the British pound and the Soviet ruble, the same pattern: denial, recognition, panic. We're currently at the recognition phase. The warning signs are everywhere, but most people still aren't aware. By the time the panic hits, it'll be too late for the average person to protect themselves. The question isn't if the dollar will face a major transition. It's when and how fast. What's coming next? The greatest trick a dying currency ever pulled was convincing everyone it was too big to fail. But when it finally collapses, it will be too late for most. The only question left is, are you ready for what's coming? If you want to stay ahead of these trends, make sure to follow for more deep dives. The next move is already being made, and you don't want to miss it.